The horseman is really confused, thinking about what happened just now. It felt as if all the damage caused by his attack was instantly rebounded. He shows Elizabeth in front of him, asking her what she just did to him. Elizabeth ignores him, thinking that even the queen's magic can't harm the clothes Leping created with his own hands. So he deliberately made him attack just now to let him pave the road to his own destruction. Leping's clothes are shining a beautiful blue light. He says to the horseman that everyone says he is the hero. But wait a minute, is he finally going to show his power? Nah, just kidding. In the next moment, Leping comes to his senses. He is really nervous, thinking fortunately it is as he thought. He serves Elizabeth as he provides her delicious food, and she protects him in exchange. Therefore, as long as he is useful to her, she won't let him die. No matter the degree of danger, it's not worth mentioning in front of the demon queen. Anyone who wishes to kill Leping is the same as them trying to destroy the queen's rice bowl. He won't lie, she is Leping's patron. In the same moment, the horseman thinks Elizabeth is truly baffling. He says to Elizabeth that she is so prideful and forgetful, but he only used less than half of his strength just now. When facing a great stallion like him, she could have found joy, but Elizabeth decided to reject his iron hoof. So, the horseman jumps in the air and starts attacking Elizabeth. He says the next one will be a full blow. If Elizabeth has the ability, keep rebounding, and let's see if she succeeds. But before he attacks Elizabeth, someone attacks him and he falls on the ground. Elizabeth, who is standing there without any fear, says to someone, "Have she finally woken up?" The horseman, laying on the ground, thinks about what's happening with him. He is not looking good. Suddenly something slowly comes out from the sky. It is the golden dragon. After witnessing this moment, the horseman, who can die any minute, realizes this is the dragon's true form. But he is really confused, thinking that the one he just killed, what was that? Suddenly the dragon the horseman just killed starts melting. After melting, the dragon merges into the dragon tail. Elizabeth, who is thinking, asks if he's using his tail as a pet teaser. That's a little trick she often used to play with her before. This is the dragon void realm form. He is the golden dragon queen, and his rank is a 1-star demon king. He is really big and can destroy the whole island with his hand. In the same moment, the horseman, who knows he might die any minute, says it's impossible. He has the power of a demon king. There's no way he can lose. But before he says something more, the dragon uses his finger and kills him. Finally, the horseman is dead. Leping is really surprised. He asks Elizabeth if this is real. Elizabeth, misunderstanding Leping, says that she knows that Leping already discovered it a long time ago. Suddenly, everything turns gold, and the whole island starts disappearing. Elizabeth explains that this space where they are isn't real. It's just an illusion that the dragon created. After everything disappears, everyone is floating. Leping is really surprised after seeing him floating in space. Elizabeth, after seeing Leping like this, says to him, "Even if magic is your weak spot, this wouldn't escape your perception." In the next moment, the dragon says something to Elizabeth in the demon language, and Elizabeth also replies to him. After hearing Elizabeth's words, the dragon starts crying, and tears start falling from his eyes. Suddenly smoke covers the dragon's whole body. In the next moment, he turns into a cute loli. She asks Elizabeth if she is really his master and that she was waiting for Elizabeth to be back. She is Amelia, Elizabeth's pet. Elizabeth says to him, "You have already been promoted to the Demon King level. Are you still that naive? I originally didn't want to come here and wake you up because you're so clingy." But she catches Elizabeth's leg and says Elizabeth has been gone for 500 years without a word. "Do you know how much I missed you?" Amelia starts telling how she met Elizabeth. She was born between heaven and earth, and Elizabeth was the one who found her in the lost secret realm and hatched her with her magical power. They formed a servant and master contract. Elizabeth not only gave her a name, Amelia, but also personally guided her, trained her, and played with her. So, Amelia made a sacred oath that she would definitely protect and serve her master. After she grew up, she became her master's mount, carrying her around to fight against vile creatures. Later, in order to put an end to the constant wars, Elizabeth decided to rule the world. Amelia was happy to see her master achieve world domination one step at a time. But since then, she noticed that Elizabeth's smile has become fainter and fainter. She thinks that Elizabeth is getting stronger and she is too weak to help her. Unexpectedly, when she went to patrol the world in Elizabeth's stead, Elizabeth went to pull out the holy sword to find the legendary hero, and there has been no news since then. In the conference room, everyone is really sad after Elizabeth goes to search for the hero. Aristotle, minister of mankind, says 10 years have passed, and Her Majesty's reputation can only intimidate everyone and barely keep the situation stable. In fact, there have been undercurrents surging, and the crime rate continues to rise. Mogul, Minister of Orcs, says that's correct. Several great chiefs of the Orc tribe have already announced their separation from the tribe. They can't be suppressed without Her Majesty's aid. Heimerdinger, Minister of Dwarves, says so. They can't just do nothing and be like sitting ducks. Otherwise, the longer the hidden danger is left to brew, the greater the damage it will cause when it breaks out. He suggests everyone go to their respective regions and stabilize the situation while waiting for Her Majesty's return. Twyla, Minister of Elves, asks Jim, who has been following Her Majesty the longest, what he thinks. Did Her Majesty really encounter any issues with that legendary hero? Jim, Minister of Demons, replies that's impossible. He has seen Her Majesty's terrifying power. There's no way there is anyone in the world who can threaten that. You can do whatever you want. He will find Her Majesty herself. Lastly, Human Prince says to everyone that he agrees with everyone. Let's all disperse. He will find Her Majesty in his way. In the end, the ministers scattered everything and divided the regions. He was not interested in any of that, so he only took half a glass of wine. Emily returned to the place where Elizabeth first found her. She believed that Elizabeth would come here one day, so she starts waiting for Elizabeth with her favorite wine glass. Time passes, winter comes, she is still waiting for Elizabeth. Many more years later, she is still waiting for Elizabeth. Her half of the body is covered by the ground. Many more years later, she is still there. Her whole body is covered in the ground. That's how she was waiting for Elizabeth. In the present time, Emily, who is crying, says, "Finally, Elizabeth returned. She was waiting for her." Elizabeth replies, "Isn't that great? It seems like the long wait has taught you to let go of your playfulness and grasp meditation, which is the key step to reaching the Demon King level." Emily doesn't pay any attention to Elizabeth's words. She asks Elizabeth to not leave her behind again, thinking that it turns out that Elizabeth left without a word for 500 years just so she can grasp meditation and reach the Demon King level. Everything Elizabeth has done was for her. Leping interrupts their conversation and asks Elizabeth to stop talking about the past. She has to quickly save little girl Annie. Suddenly, little girl Annie opens her eyes and asks Leping where they are. Leping is really happy after hearing Annie's voice. He asks her if she is all right. Little girl Annie replies that she is okay, but she starts crying, saying the apple brother gave her was crushed. Leping, who is relieved that nothing big happened, says to little girl Annie, "It's not a problem. Don't worry about it." Elizabeth, who misunderstands everything again, thinking that everything is under his control, laid the groundwork when dividing the bananas. Emily, who loves her master after seeing Elizabeth keep staring at Leping, is thinking, why does his master keep staring at that man when she didn't even look at him twice? So she asks Elizabeth, who is he? Elizabeth replies that he is the legendary hero. She stayed at his house while she was away. But Emily is not happy after hearing Elizabeth's words. She's thinking, the legendary hero. It's he who kidnapped Elizabeth. After 500 years, he still wants to steal my master's heart from me. I will settle the old and new grudges with you once and for all. So she calls Leping. He says, "Hello, Emily," saying that his name is Leping, nice to meet her. But Emily is thinking something else. She says now she can catch up to Elizabeth after reaching the Demon King level. If he joins forces with Elizabeth, she can definitely kill the legendary hero. So she uses his Dragon King's Claw and starts attacking Leping. But in the next moment, Emily's attack reflects just like a horseman. She doesn't know what just happened. On the other side, Leping, who is standing fine, asks for forgiveness that he couldn't react on time. But Emily, in shock, is thinking his attack just now was strong enough to destroy a town, and it bounced off just like that. Leping approaches him and says it's his turn to take the initiative now. Emily is really scared after what happened just now. She's thinking this is not less oppressive than Master. He can actually suppress her with his momentum. She is asking Leping to not come any closer to him. But Leping grabs his hand and helps him to stand up. He says that he is really sorry that he didn't receive his handshake. No wonder he is so calm, Elizabeth. It turns out his dragon girl named Amelia is your friend. Emily doesn't know what Leping is saying. Elizabeth replies that Leping can also say that, but to be more specific, she is his mount. Leping, after hearing Emily is Elizabeth's mount, thinking how can this be possible? In the next moment, Elizabeth snaps his fingers, and suddenly, a purple smoke surrounds everyone. In the next moment, they teleport into Leping's house. Elizabeth says to everyone, that will be all for today. Emil is really happy after seeing Elizabeth's skills, saying, "Master, it's so cool," because that was something she could only create after stepping into the Demon King realm. Elizabeth absorbed it in an instant with no effort at all. She is truly worthy of being called a monster. Leping is also happy, saying, "So it's that easy to return." thinking, as long as he holds onto Elizabeth's thigh tightly, all his troubles will be nothing more than child's play. But little girl Annie is not happy because Leping's house was too far away, and she passed out from the teleportation. Elizabeth asks Leping to please send Annie in first so she can rest. Elizabeth still has some things to tell Amelia. Leping says okay to Elizabeth and gets little girl Annie into the house. After Leping leaves, Amelia asks Elizabeth what she wants to say to her, saying, "Please don't hesitate to give me orders. I can't wait to serve master." Elizabeth asks Amelia if she has heard about the Demon Realm's Dark Guild. Amelia replies that even if she has not been outside in the past 500 years, she still heard some news of the Demon Realm before she fell asleep. So she explains that it was established by that guy Malfoy, the Prince of Mankind, and asks Elizabeth if she knows him. After hearing this name Malfoy, Elizabeth remembers that there seems to be such a person. Before she came to find the legendary hero, Amelia asks Elizabeth what is it. Do she want to ask him to do something? Is there anything she can't do? If Elizabeth asked her, she can learn. Elizabeth replies that she doesn't want anything. She heard that it's the Dark Guild which was carrying out a great number of killings in the pretext of resurrecting her. That has displeased her. After hearing this, Amelia gets really angry, saying, "What do they mean by resurrecting, master? Aren't you all well?" She says to Elizabeth, "This is simply disrespectful to you," and asks her, what does she want him to do? Elizabeth gives the order to Amelia, saying she should make them disappear completely from this world. But she must not reveal any information about her or this place. Amelia obeys her command. She will do as Elizabeth says. Elizabeth says to Amelia that she is so obedient. Once things are done, she will set her free. She can do whatever she wants then. Amelia asks Elizabeth to leave everything to her. She is going to go uproot the Dark Guild now. She thinks that Elizabeth will allow him to be free and do whatever she wants. Does this mean she can get into Master's bed every night like back when she was a baby? Amelia is really happy after thinking about this, so she opens his wings and gets into the sky. When she is flying in the sky, suddenly something starts coming towards him. And in the next moment, something hits Amelia and boom, Elizabeth watches everything from the ground. Amelia is really confused, thinking what just happened, who dared to attack him. To be able to penetrate her skin, it has to be at the level of a demon sovereign at least. And it's an extremely dangerous monster. She must eliminate it as it's a potential threat to Elizabeth. The one who attacked Amelia is none other than our robot dog, who thinks that Amelia is an intruder. So, he activates his target status detected and sees that Amelia is still alive. He increases his defense level to 2 and starts attacking Amelia. Amelia, who is still confused after seeing something coming towards him, uses his Dragon King's wings and stops the robot dog's missile attack. Amelia is really happy, saying to the robot dog, "Choosing me as your opponent. You've made the wrong choice." But in the next moment, her facial expression suddenly changes. She gets really shocked after seeing so many missiles coming towards him. Amelia can't block so many missiles and gets attacked. His whole body gets burned after the attack. But the robot dog doesn't stop there. He finds out that Amelia is alive. So, he increases the defense level to 3 and starts preparing to launch his next attack. But before he launches his attack on Amelia, suddenly he hears a voice saying to him, "Stupid dog." This is Elizabeth's voice. She says to the robot dog that this is her person and asks him to let her go. The robot dog, trembling with fear after hearing Elizabeth's voice, says to her that he has received the command, and the person has been added to the whitelist. Amelia, after getting attacked, is thinking that this place is terrifying, and she has to be alert next time. In the house, Leping is making orange juice for little girl Annie. He asks Sister Annie if she is feeling dizzy, suggesting she try drinking a glass of orange juice as the orange's taste can clear up her mind. She thanks Leping for his hospitality and starts drinking orange juice. After drinking, she feels something from this orange juice. Each fruit pulp contains rich magic power. When it bursts open, it forms a fresh torrent of magic power, opening up the nerve cells in her body and sweeping away the fatigue. She thinks this feeling, it's a highly advanced divine magic. Because of this juice, her mind gets clear. Suddenly, she starts seeing a nun who is saying, "I am you, and you are me," asking little girl Annie to stop suppressing his true self. After that, little girl Annie starts crying, tears falling from his eyes. Leping, who is lying down on his sofa, says, "Indeed, the sofa at home is still so comfortable. Really, going out on an adventure is not for him." Sometime later, Elizabeth enters the room and asks little girl Annie if she has remembered everything. Elizabeth explains that Annie's ancestors once swore an oath to her that the Jim Jim clan would always stay loyal. If Annie's bloodline has completely awakened, the power of the oath will too. After hearing Elizabeth's words, little girl Annie realizes Elizabeth is none other than the legendary demon queen who ruled the world 5,000 years ago. She asks Elizabeth if she is really the legendary demon queen. Elizabeth replies, yes, and says that she is the ruler of this world, Elizabeth. But little girl Annie is really confused because according to ancient records, Elizabeth died with the legendary hero, Leping. After hearing the story about the hero and demon queen, says, although I'm a little embarrassed to say this, I should be the hero. Little girl Annie is really surprised after hearing what Leping just said. She thought the truth should be like this. Back then, brother Leping and sister Elizabeth fought the ultimate battle for the position of the strongest. Within a month of fighting, they developed feelings for each other. In the end, they gave up fighting for the title of the strongest and fell in love, and started living in seclusion for 500 years from then on. Elizabeth agrees with little girl Annie, saying, well, almost true. But Leping is really angry at Annie, saying, don't talk nonsense, she will offend Elizabeth. Little girl Annie apologizes to Leping for saying this. On the other side, Elizabeth says to Annie, as a descendant of the demon super warrior bloodline, she has actually fallen to such a state. She has really embarrassed the demon clan. Leping is really surprised after finding out that Annie is from the demon clan. But Annie is really sad, she doesn't know what to say. But Elizabeth explains that it should have been 600 years ago, right? A child named Jim awakened his bloodline. His eyes would glow red when he used magic power, and his combat skills were greatly improved. However, as his power grew wildly, he also became extremely violent. Only constant killing could satisfy him. In just a few years, he left Elizabeth's northern territories in chaos. Over 100 elite men under Elizabeth's command were killed by him. The killings grew his ambition, and he actually directly came to Elizabeth's castle in an attempt to challenge her. But unfortunately, Elizabeth quickly defeated him and sealed his violent side. Since then, he has sworn to be loyal to Elizabeth from generation to generation. After hearing this story from Elizabeth, little girl Annie's whole body starts shaking. She says to Elizabeth that she didn't know anything. From her first memory, she has been living in the church's orphanage. The nuns, brothers, and sisters are her family. Elizabeth explains to little girl Annie that she killed everyone in the orphanage when she went berserk. She couldn't accept the reality, so she imagined that she was waiting for the nun to come back. Elizabeth is thinking that she is not there, but with his power, Jim should be able to become the overlord of the tripartite. Why did he step back like this? What about the others? Looks like there is much she doesn't know. But little girl Annie doesn't want to accept the reality. She says that her brother and sister are still alive. They are waiting for her in the orphanage. But Leping is really confused. He asks Elizabeth, didn't they meet her brothers and sisters at the market? Elizabeth says to him never mind and uses his skill transfer door, saying let's just expose the lie and see what her so-called younger siblings are. In the next moment, we can see the transfer door is open. On the other side of the door, we can see a bunch of soft dolls. After seeing these soft dolls, little girl Annie starts calling them brothers and sisters. In the next moment, the dolls transform into Annie's younger siblings. They ask Annie to come play with them, saying, Sister Annie, come back quickly. But before they come, Elizabeth closes the transfer door, and little girl Annie's younger siblings again transform into the soft dolls. Elizabeth asks little girl Annie if she gets it. She used all his magic to sustain the dolls. This is why she always stays at the magician level. In order to get rid of the Dark Apostles, Annie awakened her bloodline to protect her loved ones, then went berserk and killed them. This is what the truth she has been avoiding is. Little girl Annie starts crying. She doesn't want to accept the truth. She says it can't be real. Suddenly, his head hurts. Purple energy starts covering Annie's body. She is going to lose control. But before she does something, Elizabeth knocks him out with his finger. Elizabeth knows Leping wishes to help her, but she must remind Leping that she is only passed out temporarily. If she can't control herself and loses it again, Elizabeth is afraid the whole town will be destroyed. Leping says to Elizabeth that he understands and asks her to let him try to solve this. After Elizabeth knocked out little girl Annie, Leping took her into the room so she could get some rest and recover from her past. Some moments later, little girl Annie woke up and asked Leping if he brought her back, seeking forgiveness for inconveniencing him. Leping replied, saying it's nothing like that, having Elizabeth's portal makes it easy. He asked if she is feeling better now. Little girl Annie got emotional, her eyes filled with tears. She explained that she remembered everything. There was no nun at all, the murderer was him. Leping started to comfort her, saying she is wrong because everything she did was trying to protect his siblings. She is not a murderer. However, little girl Annie started crying. insisting Leping is wrong and it's all her fault. She blamed herself for running away after losing control. Leping explained that it's all the Dark Guild's fault. It wasn't her intention to lose control after awakening her bloodline, and asked her to stop blaming herself like that. But little girl Annie does not listen to Leping. She is still thinking that she is the one who killed her own siblings, and this fact will never change. After seeing little girl Annie, Leping got the doll and said to Annie that when she was making the dolls, all the details were good. But it's obvious that she was scared of the cotton slipping through, so she made a lot of knots. Even if it is secured, it will result in the doll losing its spirit as a whole. Leping asked little girl Annie to let him help her untie the knots and remake it. So, he dismantled every part of little girl Annie's doll to recreate them. However, after seeing this, little girl Annie started going out of control again, thinking that Leping is also harming his brother and sisters. After seeing little girl Annie, Leping started saying to her, Shakespeare once said, "Don't wander under the tree, don't ponder under the rain, and don't cry in the dark." After hearing Leping's words, in the next moment, little girl Annie found herself in an unknown place surrounded by water. Some moments later, when she came to her senses, she found herself in an unfamiliar place, wondering where she was. Suddenly, a really big hand emerged from the sky, saying to little girl Annie, "Look forward, don't look back. As long as you have the courage to face it and raise your head up, you will find the current haze to be but a very short rainy season." It was Leping, helping little girl Annie to control her power. He asked Annie to look forward, emphasizing that there is still a bright sky, which will give her determination. He used his hand to lift little girl Annie from the water, bringing both of them from darkness to light and giving her new hope. Sometime later, he created a new doll for Annie, saying, "This is the doll I remade for you. His name is Raphael." This is the angel doll, Raphael, that Leping created for little girl Annie. And you know, whatever Leping creates, that item is really overpowered. He hopes it can help her heal, so he gives this doll to little girl Annie. After receiving the doll, little girl Annie became emotional, thinking, "This feeling, it can't be wrong. It's for my brothers and sisters." Suddenly, she started seeing her brothers and sisters playing with Leping. They told little girl Annie that they're all free and asked her not to worry about them anymore. She has to live well for them. After saying this, they started disappearing, saying goodbye to little girl Annie. After everything happened, little girl Annie started crying. She promised her brothers and sisters that she would definitely protect the church. Leping placed his hand on little girl Annie, saying, "After a rain, the sky clears up." After that, Leping felt relief, thinking he had learned about psychotherapy from books he got from the system before. But to be on the safe side, he still had to come back to check regularly. On the other side, in the demon realm, Death Swamp, Amelia came here after receiving orders from Elizabeth to find out about the Dark Guild. But after seeing Amelia say, she will never forgive them who turned her master's land into such a mess. This is the same place that Elizabeth ruled 500 years ago. Amelia jumped from the cliff and started heading to the castle so she could get some information about Dark Guild. Suddenly, smoke surrounded Amelia, and she started hearing a voice saying that new food has come to the door. Whoever kills her first will get to dismember her. They want her soul. When Amelia comes close to these voices, she sees many ugly monsters. They want to eat Amelia and devote her soul, but Amelia does not give a thought about them. She killed every monster without moving from her place. After seeing this, she is thinking that these guys are treating the master's land as a garbage dump. After witnessing Amelia's power, another monster starts getting scared of her. Suddenly, a purple boss monster appears. He asks Amelia who she is and if she dares to come to the Dark Guild to stir up trouble alone. This monster is from the Dark Guild, a 6-pillar demon named Kurthuzad, and he is a level 5-star demon ancestor. He threatens Amelia, stating that he is one of the 6-pillar demons, Kurthuzad, and asks her to come over. In the same moment in the Dark Guild hall room, they are creating thousands of monster clones. Another 6-pillar members are standing in front of a really large egg, talking with a man who is connected to the large egg. He asks the other 6-pillar members if a powerful one is coming to their door. One of the 6 pillars explains to him that Ghana's troops were completely wiped out when invading the Sword Saint Guild. Could it be that they have come to take revenge? He is a Dark Guild, 6-pillar demon, and he is a level 1-star demon sovereign. Another one says it's not a problem, explaining that the purple demon Kurthuzad will greet them. She is another of the 6-pillar demons, and her name is Ruth Bader. She is a level 2-star demon ancestor. Experiment number 24 asks another 6-pillar that he wants to fight with Amelia, but William Elizabeth does not agree with him, saying he is not Amelia Machai. Dark Guild Vice President Dago Cthulhu says to everyone that, no matter who it is, even if it is the Sword Master himself, if he dares to come, he will never return. The man who is supporting the large egg is the Dark Guild president, and his name is Wise Malfoy. He was the prince of the Human King who swore his loyalty to Elizabeth at the beginning of the story. Though he is still alive, he tells everyone that, at first, he was worried about the missing materials. He didn't expect them to be delivered to his doorstep out of nowhere. On the other side, Amelia has already killed the purple demon, who is really confused, thinking, how is this possible? His abyss magic is all useless, and even his magic tools have no effect on Amelia. This isn't good, her power is endless. He thought it's best to use teleportation magic to go back to the hall and convey information to the rest. But before he uses his teleportation magic, Amelia uses her dragon's claw and crushes him with her hand. In the next moment, thousands of demons come toward Amelia. They are great apostles, thinking about how the purple demon was actually defeated by a mere child. But they are really happy, thinking there will be 2 vacant seats for a pillar demon. Another one says they had a difficult battle. She is definitely seriously injured after that and asks everyone to take this opportunity. She asks all the apostles to go, just overwhelm her with numbers and kill her. But Amelia does not give a thought about them. She just sees them as another pile of trash. She uses the Golden Dragon King Roar and kills all the demons in just one attack. After killing them, she goes to the castle to find out about the Dark Guild. But before she enters the castle, the door demon stops her, saying if she wishes to enter, she must answer his questions. The cost of answering wrong is her life. So, he starts asking her questions, but before he completes his words, Amelia kicks the demon door and breaks him into multiple pieces. After that, she enters the room. After seeing Wise Malfoy, she says to him that he has turned into something ugly. After hearing this, Malfoy starts laughing, saying 5,000 years have passed, and he became old now. He is really happy after meeting Amelia after such a long time. But before he completes his words, Amelia kills him with her power. His body explodes instantly. After seeing this, everyone gets really surprised, wondering what just happened. One of them asks if Amelia thinks her attack worked. After killing Wise Malfoy, Amelia thinks she's done and suggests calling it a day and going to Master Elizabeth. But suddenly, Malfoy's body starts healing. He is really happy, saying, as expected of Amelia, she's gotten even stronger. However, he is really curious and asks Amelia why she suddenly awakened from his deep slumber. He also asks if she perhaps found Master Elizabeth. Amelia gets really surprised, thinking about what just happened. How is he still alive? But before she says something, the 6-pillar vice president attacks Amelia with his taboo tentacles. He tells Amelia that as long as he defeats her, the demon Queen Elizabeth's mount, Golden Dragon King, the position of the Lord of Demons will be hers. Now that Amelia's magic power and the movement of her limbs are sealed inside the Dark Sea, no matter how strong she is, she can't escape his grasp. Amelia laughs and asks him, who wants to escape? What do you mean? Amelia starts eating his tentacles, but he tells her that it's a pointless struggle. However, Amelia doesn't give a thought about him and continues eating. But his tentacles are really large. He tells Amelia that she is a stupid girl and asks if she wants to eat him. Does she know how large his body is? She shouldn't overestimate herself. But he underestimated Amelia. Amelia starts eating his whole body, and the octopus demon gets really scared. He asks Malfoy to save him, but before they help, Amelia already finishes eating him. Since waking up, she hadn't eaten anything and thought that this would be enough to fill her stomach. Suddenly, one of the 6 pillars says to Amelia that she surrenders. She had to join them against her will. She comes close to Amelia and uses her seductive kiss on Amelia, thinking if attacking doesn't work, this will. She asks Amelia from now on, she is her prisoner. However, her seductive kiss doesn't work on Amelia. Amelia releases some of her power and sends her flying to the other side. She doesn't give a thought about her, she is still thinking about the octopus she ate before. Because the silly octopus still wants to multiply in her stomach, she says to the octopus that she will digest him in one go. Another 6-pillar gets really surprised, thinking not only did Amelia kill the vice president, but she also injured her father. She thinks that's interesting, so she uses her Demon King skill, Liberation. But Amelia sends her flying with just one punch. After killing the remaining 6-pillar, Amelia asks Wise if he is thinking of replacing Elizabeth by bringing this trash with him. He is not even qualified to be her opponent right now. Malfoy congratulates Lady Amelia for being promoted to Demon King. He is so envious. As a human, he doesn't have a long enough lifespan to break through. Amelia interrupts him, saying that's enough with the nonsense, and asks him if he is going to commit suicide or if he still thinks he can beat her. Wise Malfoy starts laughing, saying how could he, Wise Malfoy, dare to be her opponent. But suddenly, the egg behind Wise Malfoy starts revealing. She says if they add her, the matter would be different. After seeing Elizabeth's clone, Amelia gets really surprised, thinking about what he just did. She is really angry. Wise Malfoy starts laughing loudly, saying with the help of the Elizabeth clone, he will defeat Amelia. After 1 month later, Robot Dog licking his pee. Oh sorry, I mean Leping is working on his farm, digging a hole and sowing some fruit seeds. He gives them some water and in the next moment, a tree grows with many types of fruits. Leping harvests all the fruits from the tree and starts traveling back to his home with his robot dog. After coming back home, he starts preparing some firewood for cooking. However, Leping is not his usual self and Elizabeth also notices, thinking, what the hell is going on with him? In the night, Leping can't sleep because of this. He says that he has decided he will ask Elizabeth about the world. In the next morning, Leping apologizes to Elizabeth for bothering her so early. He makes today's breakfast and asks Elizabeth to please enjoy. Elizabeth asks Leping if he has anything to say, just say it. She hates beating around the bush. After hearing this, Leping explains that after this year of getting along with each other, Elizabeth should already know that he is no threat to her and that the hero and demon queen can coexist. So, he thinks it's time for Elizabeth to get out of here and take control of the world again. But Elizabeth is really confused, thinking about what Leping wants to say. Leping explains that he originally thought he could live peacefully by hiding here in the novice village. However, he didn't expect that what the system said about the encounter of the hero and the demon queen being inevitable would be true. He didn't go out, but Elizabeth came to his door. As a result, the novice village's barrier was damaged, and 500 years passed outside, resulting in the current chaos. Without Elizabeth ruling the world, some dark guild has appeared. And what happened to Uncle Boss and Annie is just a tiny part of the chaos of the outside world. After hearing this, Elizabeth is really confused and asks Leping why he cares if it's chaotic or not, as it doesn't affect them. But according to the system, if Leping and Elizabeth become enemies, the world becomes peaceful. However, if they both become friends, then the world is in chaos. Leping explains that he admits he was intertwined during this period because of the barrier's disappearance. Without Elizabeth, it would have been difficult for him to continue living like this. If he didn't know what was going on outside, he could certainly continue his life here without any problems. But after witnessing it, he can no longer stay out of it simply because he doesn't want to be a hero or doesn't want to save people from suffering. However, Elizabeth misunderstands everything, thinking Leping is just saying he can't live without her. Leping asks Elizabeth to please go and rule the world again. Although he is an incompetent hero, he can't continue to be selfish. But what can he do? If this place is wiped out by monsters, the worst he can do is just go to the city to work. After finishing his dinner, Elizabeth says to Leping if he wants her to solve the problems of the outside world. She smiles and says that it's just a small issue to her. After hearing this, Leping gets really happy and asks Elizabeth if she agrees, and he will also help her pack her things now. But Elizabeth replies that she is not interested in the outside world, but there are 2 ways to solve this. However, Elizabeth misunderstands, thinking that Leping is looking for an excuse to kick her out. Leping asks about the solutions and what they are. She explains that the first is the most direct one. She will go out and cast a world-destroying magic spell to completely solve the issue. She asks Leping if that will work, but Leping disagrees, saying that it definitely won't work. Then the second is to find a suitable person to rule the world, and Elizabeth can teach them from the shadows. After hearing this, Leping doesn't understand and asks what does she mean by a suitable person and who should it be. Elizabeth smiles after hearing Leping's words and says that he knows already. Aside from her, only he is qualified for this. Leping gets really shocked after hearing what Elizabeth just said and asks her if she really wants him to rule the world. Leping ventured into the open with his legendary sword, asking why did it suddenly turn into this. However, Elizabeth tells Le to be vigilant and asks him to begin his swordsmanship training. Leping apologizes to her and starts swinging his sword. On the other side, Elizabeth is smiling, misunderstanding everything, thinking Leping wants to play games with this demon queen but he is too young for that. It's undeniable that in terms of power, Leping is a little bit better than her, but when it comes to psychology and knowledge, Liz no match. But when Leping told Elizabeth to leave this morning, she felt so unhappy and almost let it happen. But then he said the words that were in his heart, that he can't live without Elizabeth, and she completely saw through him. However, Elizabeth still thinks that Leping knows very well that with their power, destroying or ruling the world is a matter of a single thought. It bears no meaning, so the best they can do is to leave it alone to develop and observe what is happening in their spare time. As for the Dark Guild, it has already been taken care of by Amelia, so there is no need to worry about it. Elizabeth starts blessing, thinking that La has been wandering in thought every day, so he decided to bring her out early this morning to talk nonsense about how he wants her to leave and rule the world. But Elizabeth misunderstands everything, thinking that La is trying to find an excuse to make her pay attention. It's obvious that after a year of getting along with one another, Leping has fallen in love with Elizabeth. This is what Elizabeth is thinking, but on the other side, Leping, who doesn't know anything, is still practicing his swordsmanship, thinking, is it true that one can master their sword by swinging it 1,000 times a day? But he is really confused, thinking, how can that be so simple? But Elizabeth thinks that Leping is the pinnacle of strength and still enjoys being beaten by another. She is the only one in the world who is capable of controlling him because he is a hero with wicked interests. Even if she is not interested in such a boring matter as falling in love, it is different when it comes to Leping. He has the highest power of creation and production, and she has the best swordsmanship and magic. What kind of a child would the two of them be able to create? To create the strongest child to break the limits of this realm, thinking this is Leping's true aim. However, after thinking about this, she starts laughing really loudly, thinking she will not agree so easily, so she will let La practice his bad swordsmanship first. He needs to get stronger for that kid in the future. But Leping, after seeing Elizabeth, gets really confused, thinking, what is Elizabeth thinking about? Is she really planning to teach me swordsmanship and magic so I can destroy the Dark Guild? But when Leping swings his sword, suddenly a smoke scene surrounds the legendary sword. In the next moment, the legendary sword turns into a 12-year-old kid. After seeing this, Leping gets really shocked, thinking, why did the holy sword turn into a kid? The holy sword, now turned into a kid, gets really angry at Leping and asks why he is calling him a kid, introducing himself as Majestic Holy Sword Spirit, Alpha. Elizabeth, after seeing everything, asks Leping what's going on. But after seeing Elizabeth, Holy Sword Alpha says to her, Tisk, so it's you, the Demon Queen Elizabeth. However, he is not happy after seeing Elizabeth. He rushes toward her, thinking he will kill Elizabeth today. But before he can attack Elizabeth, she kicks him really hard and sends him flying across to the other side. She asks Holy Sword Alpha to sit down and let's talk. Holy Sword Alpha, after being beaten by Elizabeth, sits quietly in front of her, while apologizes to Holy Sword Alpha, explaining that he didn't know he was conscious even after using it for so long. Holy Sword Alpha explains that of course La didn't know. At the critical moment of the hero fighting the Demon Queen, he appeared. But Holy Sword Alpha is really angry after finding out that Leping is using him to chop firewood all year. He actually used the Majestic Holy Sword to chop firewood. He asks Leping if he knows how he spent that year. Leping asks Holy Sword Alpha to calm down, but he doesn't listen to him, thinking La actually changed the script and became friends with Elizabeth, and he even turned him, Holy Sword, into a wood-chopping knife. He says that Leping is a disgusting man and he doesn't deserve to be a hero at all. Elizabeth asks Holy Sword Alpha if he wants to kill her. Holy Sword Alpha replies saying no, explaining that it's all because of the silly system settings. Now, it's invalid. Considering the circumstances, Elizabeth would actually be his savior. But Elizabeth doesn't care and asks Holy Sword Alpha to help Leping rule the world. However, after hearing this, Holy Sword Alpha gets really confused and asks about ruling the world. Leping explains that Elizabeth means they should save it. But Holy Sword Alpha is still confused and asks Leping what he is talking about. La explains, saying he has been idle for a long time. He decided to take the responsibility as the hero, practice, and then go save the world. Holy Sword Alpha asks Leping if he doesn't know where his talents lie. He just used Holy Sword Alpha to practice his sword swings 100 times and accumulated XP equal to fighting a Demon King level enemy and awakening him. However, Leping misunderstands himself, saying that he knows he has no talent, but with two great coaches, Holy Sword Alpha and Elizabeth, he believes he can do it. However, Holy Sword Alpha is really confused and asks La what he is talking about. He is the world's strongest swordmaster. But before he can say this, Elizabeth silences his mouth with her magic. Then she asks Leping to sit down first. She has something to explain to the both of them. So she uses her magic hand and gets the Holy Sword Alpha behind the tree. After that, Leping starts hearing some noise behind the tree. Some moments later, Holy Sword Alpha gets a really good message from Elizabeth, so he comes to Leping and says to him that he got it. No matter what, he will cooperate with Leping. Without further ado, Elizabeth tells Leping that with only swordsmanship being allowed, they should start venturing outside. The narrative shifted to a bustling town square in Titano, alive with the chatter of townsfolk. Amongst them, a girl announced that the Grey Wolf Guild is looking for recruits. The salary is favorable. The ones who are considering a job change can look at this flyer. The town's air was rich with the scent of street food, with corner shops advertising crispy fried chicken. Hot and fresh, the best choice for a snack when going to watch the guild competition. Titano Town is in Sword Saint Guild's area of influence. Leping and Elizabeth also come to this town to watch the guild competition. Elizabeth says to Le that her magic senses are telling her that this town is to hold a large-scale event. And where there are many people, Le can get a lot of information. Leping understands that the first step to ruling the world is the gathering of intelligence. However, Holy Sword Alpha doesn't look happy. He asks Leping if he wants him to accompany Le to waste his time in such a place. After hearing this, Elizabeth turns her head toward Holy Sword Alpha. She is really angry and asks him if he wants her to break him in two. Seeing Elizabeth like this, Holy Sword Alpha gets scared and asks Leping if he needs him. Just call him anytime. After saying this, he turns into a sword again. But suddenly, Leping notices a flyer and asks Elizabeth, "These flyers are everywhere. What is this event that is being held?" However, after looking carefully, he notices that this is a guild competition flyer. So he asks Elizabeth if she knew about this. Elizabeth explains that it's a competition where the guilds send their representatives to fight. But suddenly, they heard a really loud sound. This is the announcement sound for participants to enter and who wants to bet with them. After hearing this sound, people start heading toward the arena. When the guild competition is going to be held, people ask everyone to bet on the Sword Saint Guild. They will 100% win. But another one says that the elves have also sent people this time. Also, there is that card guild that became famous recently. Leping grabbed Elizabeth's hand, suggesting they watch the spectacle too. Moments later, upon reaching the arena, Leping was astounded by its immense beauty and size. However, their entry was halted by a yellow monster who informed them that his magic ticket inspector didn't detect their tickets. Leping, turning to Elizabeth, confidently offered to handle the situation. He inquired of the yellow monster if, as advertised on the flyer, tickets could still be purchased for 10 gold coins. The monster confirmed, but revealed he had monopolized the remaining tickets and was now selling them for 200 gold coins. Leping was shocked by this blatant profiteering. Elizabeth, clearly displeased, used her mind control magic on the monster. His demeanor instantly changed, becoming obsequious towards Leping. He offered them 2 VIP room tickets, declaring it an honor to serve them. He then happily ushered them to the VIP room. Leping, awestruck by the luxuriousness of the VIP room, couldn't believe his eyes. However, they weren't the only ones with VIP access. Several important figures from various guilds were present, including spellwriter Tagore Severus, drunk blacksmith Brian, Luna Saugus, and her sister Anna Saugus. Anna, spotting Leping and Elizabeth, nudged Luna and inquired if they were on the invitation list. This first glimpse of the grand arena made Leping a bit nervous, but Elizabeth remained nonchalant and requested snacks from him. Anna advised Luna to keep an eye on them, speculating they might be from a guild whose president had aided them in the past. The competition finally began. The host, Gob the Goblin, welcomed everyone and requested a warm reception for the players. He then announced the final round of the guild competition and introduced the 4 finalists: King, the genius swordsman from the Sword Saint Guild; Jayla, the valiant general from the Giant Bear Guild; Travis, the handsome fellow from the Elf Guild; and E, the special guest representing the Card Guild. The crowd roared in anticipation as the host declared, "Let the games begin." After all 4 contestants enter the arena, Travis from the Elf Guild carefully examines everyone, thinking that this muscular-looking fool from the Giant Bear Guild looks way too simple-minded. He's probably cannon fodder. As for the Card Guild, which was recently established, the only reason they are qualified to join this competition is because they helped the Sword Saint Guild in killing the invading 6 pillar demons. They are just a second-rate guild affiliated with the Sword Saint Guild, and there is only their president representing them. He is no threat to him. So, in this competition, the only one who poses a threat to him is the Sword Saint Guild's Blue Sword. However, after this, Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild starts running toward Blue Sword to attack him. But he is not the only one who is attacking. Travis jumps into the air and prepares his arrow to attack, thinking what a barbaric and primitive person Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild is. So he shoots 3 arrows at the same time to everyone. But everyone manages to avoid his arrows. However, Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild catches Travis's arrow and says to him, "These sissy's words are so rude. He will be the first I kill." He crushes the arrow that he caught and throws it into the ground. However, suddenly, the arrow he threw into the ground starts growing, and in just a few seconds, those arrows transform into a wooden cage and capture everyone. Travis, after locking up Jayla in a cage, says, "Such an uncultured beast like him should be locked up in a cage." However, Jayla, who is really big, says to Travis he can't stop him with just these rotten roots of his. He will crush them all. So he uses his fierce ram, thinking he can get out from this cage with his fierce ram. However, when he tries to escape, the grass roots come to life and capture him. After seeing he is really confused and doesn't know what's happening, Travis starts laughing, saying, "These are the grass roots of the gum tree. Upon impact, they shrink and an extremely sticky fluid comes out, you muscle brain." Meanwhile, Blue Sword effortlessly sliced through the roots with his sword, emerging from the cage unscathed. His flawless swordsmanship surprised both the masked man and Travis, particularly the latter, who grew frustrated. He's so fast the roots couldn't even touch him, he thought. Emerging from the cage, Blue Sword apologized to Travis for destroying his plant. To his surprise, Travis declared it didn't matter. He could repay the debt with his life. Defeating a formidable opponent like Blue Sword would be exhilarating. He readied his bow, unleashing his violent butterfly dance technique, a flurry of 100 arrows. Undeterred, Blue Sword muttered, "No fear, no doubt, no surprises, no confusion." Entering his selfless state, he readied his sword and executed the blue bird technique, slicing through not only Travis' butterfly dance but also severing his right hand without him even noticing. Confused and bewildered, Travis looked at Blue Sword, who calmly stated, "You've lost." Travis conceded, acknowledging Blue Sword's title as the Sword Saint Guild's genius. However, he reminded him that he, too, was a genius, an elf guild genius. Suddenly, green butterflies surrounded Blue Sword. Before he could react, Travis unleashed his butterfly explosion. Fortunately, Blue Sword survived the attack. However, after seeing Blue Sword is still alive, Travis retrieves something from his mouth and throws it into the ground. Suddenly, a really big flower emerges from the ground. This flower is Healing Lily, capable of healing any wound. Travis uses it to heal his arm. After seeing that, he acknowledges that the Sword Saint Guild is extremely powerful, but its attack patterns are too simple. This is its flaw. With the blessing of the sacred tree, the elves are the most powerful of all. However, before he can say something more, Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild attacks him from behind and kills him. Jayla starts laughing, saying, as he said, "The first one to die will be Travis. Show-offs are the most annoying type." After that, he turns his head toward Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword gets really surprised after seeing him. This aura he's giving off is. But before he can say something, the audience starts cheering for Jayla, asking for more, and urging him to smash Blue Sword to death. Jayla's revenge instantly fires up the audience. The first one to leave the competition is the handsome Travis of the Elf Guild. But everyone is really curious, how did Jayla break away? However, this is not important. Now what matters is, can the injured Blue Sword withstand Jayla's attack? So, Blue Sword lifts his right hand into the air and calls his sword. In the next moment, his sword comes back to him. However, after he carefully looks at Jayla, he gets a rough idea that he used his sweat as lubrication to struggle free from the secret of the roots. Fortunately, Blue Sword used his sword in time to prevent bigger damage, so the impact was minimal. Jayla's body starts growing, and purple smoke surrounds him. He says to Blue Sword that power is everything, and he will crush him in just seconds. So, he jumps into the air and uses 70% of his muscle power to attack Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword dodges and avoids his attack, then counterattacks him with his flashing cold slash, sending him back. Unfortunately, he can't deal any damage to Jayla's body. Jayla starts laughing after seeing Blue Sword can only scratch him. On the other side, Blue Sword gets really surprised after seeing his sword got damaged. However, before Blue Sword can think anything, Jayla attacks him and uses 80% of his muscle power this time. Unfortunately, Blue Sword barely stops his attack, but he can't completely stop it and rolls into the ground. After finding out that he can't use his sword anymore, he throws his sword into the ground and starts fighting Jayla hand to hand. Jayla starts attacking Blue Sword again, but this time he uses 90% of his muscle power, thinking he will kill Blue Sword this time. However, Blue Sword dodges Jayla's every attack. On the other side, Leping is really excited after seeing their fights. He asks Elizabeth who she thinks will win in the end. However, Elizabeth doesn't say anything. Anna, the red-haired girl, is really surprised because his sword is a B-ranked weapon forged by the dwarves, but it was broken by a simple punch. Luna, the yellow-haired girl, asks her sister if they should stop it, After all, their Sword Saint Guild can't lose more face. But the red-haired girl is really confused, thinking, when did the Giant Bear Guild's people become so strong? But she suddenly remembers, could it be the Dark Guild? On the other side, the yellow-haired man asks one of the big-shot elders, Barry from the Sword Saint Guild, if he needs him to stop the fight between Blue Sword and Jayla. His name is Grey Sword Ash, and he is from the Sword Saint Guild. However, Elder Sword Barry from the Sword Saint Guild disagrees, explaining that the two of them are more than enough to handle Jayla, and he asks Elder Burrs what he thinks. Elder Burrs replies that he doesn't know, he will think about it if the situation gets out of hand. He is the Card Guild president and a former member of the Sword Saint Guild, and he is a 4-star demon sect realm. His name is Boss, the old man we saw at the beginning of this manhwa. He received card skills from Leping, became powerful, and created his own guild. Grey Sword thinks that Senior Burrs is indeed someone who deeply hates the Dark Guild. Just hearing about becoming an apostle makes him so angry that he can hardly hold back and even trembles all over. Grey Sword misunderstands everything. Mr. Burrs doesn't tremble in anger because Jayla became the apostle of the Dark Guild, but he trembles in fear. After seeing Leping and Elizabeth, he can't believe his eyes, thinking, how could it be possible? How did those two get here? On the other hand, Leping asks Elizabeth after seeing the fight between Blue Sword and Jayla if they don't meet their expectations. What do you think we should do with them? Elizabeth replies without any second thought, saying if they don't meet their expectations, then they will kill them all without wasting any time. Mr. Burrs, after hearing the conversation between Leping and Elizabeth, gets more shocked, thinking, that must be it. Mr. Leping is here to check whether I have used his card and wheat tea on the right path. In order to live up to Mr. Leping's gift, fortunately, after I mastered the basic abilities, I actively hunted down the evil apostles and devoted myself to maintaining the peace of the heroes' continent. However, can these two of them really take this insignificant achievement seriously? However, Jayla, after becoming an apostle of the Dark Guild, gets really powerful, saying Blue Sword is a little bug in front of him, and he will slap him to death. Blue Sword is really surprised after seeing Jayla's power, and he doesn't have any other choice. He has to use his secret technique, but he is really nervous because he doesn't know if he can control it now. However, he can't doubt himself, he remembers his master's teachings. If you want to enter a state of selflessness, you must abandon distracting thoughts. However, before Blue Sword can execute his technique, Jayla uses his overwhelming strength to attack the ground and starts playing with the ground just like rubber. He uses this to attack Blue Sword, who is really shocked after seeing this. However, before Blue Sword could react, Jayla started attacking him, sending Blue Sword into the air. Jayla planned to capture him with his ground-controlling technique by creating walls around him. Blue Sword, confused and unable to react, found himself captured in a stone cage before he could do anything. Jayla, after capturing Blue Sword, explained that the Giant Bear Guild doesn't just specialize in physical enhancement but also excels in earth magic, comparable to high-level magician guilds. He started laughing at Blue Sword's predicament. Suddenly, Jayla noticed a blue energy emanating from the stone cage, prompting him to quickly retreat. Upon closer inspection, he realized that his hand was already cut off. Confused and trembling in fear, he wondered what had just happened. Blue Sword utilized his magic sword energy to cut the stone cage into tiny pieces, showcasing his power. However, he is still murmuring his teacher's words about not being surprised or confused to reach a state of selflessness. Blue Sword demonstrated exceptional skill. However, Jayla, enraged and disregarding Blue Sword's teachings, only wanted to kill him, declaring that he would kill him today no matter what. Despite the threat, Blue Sword remained undeterred, using his magic sword energy to cut Jayla's right leg. Jayla started crying in pain after Blue Sword's decisive move. After cutting his leg, Blue Sword offered Jayla one last chance to surrender. Jayla, still unwilling to give up, vowed to kill Blue Sword today. Jayla started remembering his master's advice about using gears to enhance strength for the competition and avoiding forbidden drugs unless necessary. He expressed surprise at the powerful skills of the people from the Sword Saint Guild. Should I use the power of forbidden drugs? If I can't bear it, I will suffer backlash. However, Blue Sword points his sword towards to Jayla, saying, while you are conscious, voluntarily give up the power of the Dark Guild, and I can spare your life. But Jayla doesn't want to give up without a fight, so he uses the power of forbidden drugs. He plans to transform into a complete Demon King and kill Blue Sword and all the members of the Sword Saint Guild. However, while still contemplating this, Blue Sword uses his magic sword energy and cuts Jayla's head without any second thought. The masked girl who is still trapped in the cage is thinking, can she really do it? Can she really win this fight? However, she is not confident in herself, contemplating the idea of surrendering. She is Alina, Mr. Boss' daughter. We show them the beginning of the manhwa when Leping's robot dog saves them from the Dark Guild. In the Card Guild, Alina is meditating and training with her card, which she received from Leping. She drinks barley tea and breaks through from a 5-star demon spirit to a 1-star great demon spirit. After the breakthrough, she thinks meditation and entering this space use up a lot of mental power. Fortunately, this magic barley tea helps calm down my thoughts and prevents me from losing myself in that universe of poker. It keeps me in complete harmony. The effects are remarkable. I was able to break through to the great demon spirit realm in a short time despite my mediocre aptitude. While she is still thinking about this, she suddenly hears a door opening sound. The one who is on the is Mr. Boss. He comes back home after completing his work. Alina is really happy after seeing her dad, saying, "Dad, you're finally back." But she is really curious about the meeting between Sword Saint Guild and her dad. She asks what happened with the Sword Saint Guild and if he's okay. Mr. Boss explains, the crisis of the Dark Guild's invasion has been resolved, but the internal issues of the Sword Saint Guild are much more serious than I anticipated. I didn't see the Sword Master personally this time. After hearing this, Alina asks Mr. Boss, so, what should they do now? Without the recognition of the Sword Saint Guild, they won't be able to develop this region and recruit members to elevate Mr. Leping's Card Guild. However, Mr. Boss replies, even if I didn't see the Sword Master, I helped them repel the Dark Guild, and I got something unexpected. So, Mr. Boss opens the bag he is carrying and shows them to Alina. After seeing them, Alina instantly recognizes them, saying they are the Dark Gears of Great Apostles. However, she is really surprised after seeing so many of them. She explains that she is now at the Great Demon Spirit level, so she should be able to purify them in one day. But she is really confused and asks Mr. Boss if these are the unexpected gains he's talking about. Mr. Boss says no and shows the invitation card to Alina, explaining that this is what he's talking about. The Sword Saint Guild gave us a direct qualification for the guild competition finals. Alina is really surprised after seeing the guild competition card. Mr. Boss reassures Alina, saying, you don't have to worry. As long as you participate and win, our card guild will be recognized. However, Alina is really nervous after hearing Mr. Boss's words. She explains that she is not good at all. The participants in the past have all been geniuses from many guilds, with strength at least at the demon ancestor level. She has just been promoted to the great demon spirit level. She is afraid that not only will she not be able to represent them well, but they will lose face too. It feels like they are deliberately making things difficult for them. However, Mr. Boss doesn't care about this. He says to Alina, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. Having more confidence and determination is the most important thing. We are not the same as before. When the time comes, your father will bring you Mr. Leping's treasure deck, and this level gap will make no difference. In the present, Alina, who is still thinking about her father's words, realizes that her father told her to bring in Mr. Leping's cards. However, with her strength, she can use no more than 6 at a time. The rest of the battle has to be done with replica cards only, which will greatly decrease her attack strength. But, in order to promote Mr. Leping properly, she can't back down. Determination is the most important. After saying this, she gets his cards from his pocket and uses the card slash to free herself from the cage. After that, she slowly starts approaching Blue Sword. However, as she approaches Blue Sword, it is revealed that Galoa is still alive after his head was cut off. Blue Sword gets really impressed after seeing Alina's power, explaining, it was a good strategy to hide your power and only take action at the end. However, he doesn't consider Alina his opponent by any means and asks her to admit defeat now, saying that their guild owes her a favor. He doesn't wish to hurt her, this is his final warning. However, before he completes his words, Alina attacks him with her card skill. After seeing Alina's card skill, the Dark Guild president is really surprised. He asks, what is this weapon? I've never seen a weapon like this. Alina, without wasting any time, slashes his cards and uses the poker flying sword technique to attack Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword figures out Alina's strategy, explaining, she just wants to distract me with this fancy attack. The real goal is to hit me with another move. However, Blue Sword, without wasting any time, jumps towards Alina to attack her. He doesn't want to give Alina any chance for a counterattack. Alina gets really shocked and realizes that Blue Sword already saw through his plan. Luckily, she dodges Blue Sword's attack in the right time. Without wasting any time, she uses her card slash to attack Blue Sword as many times as she can. However, Alina's attacks don't work on Blue Sword. He jumps into the air and attacks Alina. Nevertheless, Alina dodges Blue Sword's attack and counters with her card slash skill. Blue Sword uses his sword Kai to dodge Alina's attack, but Alina uses her card lock to stop Blue Sword from attacking. The audience is really excited after seeing the fight between Blue Sword and Alina. They think the card guild's fighting style is quite unique. Blue Sword is surrounded by cards, and they wonder what he will do to resolve this. Alina has already locked Blue Sword's skills with her card lock skill. After seeing this, Blue Sword asks Alina, "Do you consume my sword Kai with this power?" However, he doesn't care, saying, "It's pointless. If you force me to take this seriously, you have to be ready to be killed." Alina, after hearing this, replies, of course, she knows the card lock can't restrain him for long, but it is enough to buy her time for the card slash to be complete. And she got the most powerful spades, so she releases her cards to prepare a powerful move. In the next moment, the cards transform into a spades dragon. After seeing this, the people watching the fight between Blue Sword and Alina get really shocked and ask, "What's that? She has so many attacks, first a lock and now a summon too." One of them says, "This is worth recording and investigating." The Dark Guild president is really surprised after seeing Leping's card's power, thinking, through different combinations, many fighting methods are being displayed. Which masterful craftsman made these cards? Leping gets really surprised after seeing that people in this world also know how to play cards. He asks Elizabeth to look, and they are playing cards. It turns out that people outside also know how to play cards and can use them to fight. Meanwhile, Alina uses his Spades Dragon skill and attacks Blue Sword. After seeing this powerful move, Blue Sword uses his maximum output of sword energy to create a big blue bird and uses it to counter-attack Alina's Spades Dragon. Blue Sword's attack with the blue bird is powerful, destroying Alina's Spades Dragon without any problem and causing some harm to Alina. Luckily, Alina creates a shield with her cards on time and barely defends herself. She thinks Blue Sword is really strong, and as a 3-star demon spirit, it is still difficult for her to make up for the gap in level using only replica cards. To win, she must use treasure cards, but she is nervous about using them because if she can't control the power well, she might end up harming him. Blue Sword is really impressed with Alina because she is forcing him to use his full power. He jumps into the air to attack Alina. However, Alina creates a shield with her cards to defend herself. Unfortunately, it is not enough to stop Blue Sword's attack, and he sends Alina flying across to another corner. Blue Sword approaches Alina, saying it's over and she lost. Alina admits defeat, thinking, forget it, there's no need to continue, just fighting to this level is enough. Suddenly, something hits Blue Sword on the head from behind. Blue Sword, looking in pain, doesn't know what just happened and wonders, what's this? His eyes start changing. Alina also gets shocked after seeing this. The one who attacked Blue Sword is Jayla's head. He is controlling Blue Sword's body. However, he is not Jayla, he is a great apostle who was in Jayla's body. After Jayla's death, he finally hatched. After that, he wants to control Blue Sword's body as he really likes Blue Sword's body. He can use the sword energy in this body. Gob the Goblin explains to the audience about the current situation, saying Jayla's head suddenly jumped up and took control of King's body. The scene seemed a bit out of control. The Great Apostle starts attacking the audience, but shield barriers are protecting everyone. However, people start to run as the protective shield is about to burst. Everyone is really shocked after seeing that the guy from the Sword Saint Guild had turned into an apostle. Red-haired girl Anna is also shocked after seeing that Blue Sword turned into a Dark Guild apostle. Yellow-haired girl asks Sister Anna what they should do now. The man who is smoking is also really surprised by this unexpected show. Leping is also really surprised. This isn't what they expected. He asks Elizabeth if they are going to step in and help. Elizabeth replies saying no, explaining that if Leping wants to rule the world, he must learn to adapt to such small scenes of temporary changes. Otherwise, how will he be able to manage such a big world in the future? Elizabeth asks Leping to just wait and see what happens first. Leping doesn't say anything and agrees with Elizabeth. Mr. Boss, who is thinking, realizes that both Elizabeth and Leping knew about the Apostles' invasion. They planned to see if Alina and he could settle this matter properly. He prays that Alina must perform well and satisfy Mr. Leping and Demon Queen Elizabeth. Meanwhile, the Sword Saint Guild president is thinking that Mr. Boss is getting anxious. If he steps in to save his daughter, it proves that his guild is not strong enough to deal with the Dark Guild. Now the Sword Saint Guild is recruiting new people, and he wants Mr. Boss to come back and become the new elder in Sword Saint Guild. The Great Apostle really likes Blue Sword's body, saying it's great. He is very satisfied with this body. Alina is really surprised after seeing the Dark Guild. The great apostle is laughing at Alina, asking what the little bastard wants to do. Alina gets his treasure card, saying if the opponent is the Dark Guild, then she doesn't need to worry so much. Alina's body starts glowing, a huge amount of magic energy surrounding her. The great apostle gets really scared after seeing the unknown power coming from Alina, thinking it's better to kill her immediately. He uses blue sword energy and attacks Alina. However, Alina stops his attack. She uses her card skill and creates a sacred guardian to protect her. Leping gets really surprised after seeing Alina's face, thinking, why does this feel familiar? Meanwhile, Dwarf Guild President is really shocked after seeing Alina's card power, thinking, what's this? Compared to the cards just now, these feel even more incredible. The man with one eyeglasses is also really shocked. He has never seen an attack like this, thinking, this summoned phantom. If I remember correctly, is this the 13 holy warriors that is recorded in the books? Is it real? Sword Saint Guild President asks Mr. Boss if this is the trick he used to defeat the 6 pillar demons. Mr. Boss replies that he used a 9-card formation before, and his daughter is using only a 5-card formation. The attacks are the same but different in magical power. However, Mr. Boss hopes that it is enough to defeat the Dark Guild Apostle. Alina throws her card toward the Great Apostle, asking him to leave Blue Sword's body. Unfortunately, the Great Apostle dodges Alina's attack without any problem. However, he gets really scared after seeing the power of these cards, thinking, how come these ordinary cards have so much power? He is really impressed with Alina's power, but he doesn't want to lose his life. So, he jumps into the air, saying to Alina, you're amazing. I will come back to you after I get to know this body. I will be running away for now. Unfortunately, Alina uses her card and summons her shield guardian, commanding it to stop the Great Apostle. Then, she throws the Great Apostle to another shield guardian, and the guardians play with the Great Apostle like volleyball. The Great Apostle is really confused, not knowing what is going on, thinking he was just born and can't die here. So, he uses his strongest move, Fierce Sword. However, before he can attack Alina, she uses her guardian and traps the Great Apostle into a box. The Great Apostle is really confused after seeing this, so he tries to cut the box with his Fierce Sword. However, before he can use his skill, Alina uses her Holy Array, commanding her guardian to crush the Great Apostle. After that, the box starts getting smaller and smaller. The Great Apostle asks Alina to show some mercy. There is no need to do this. He doesn't want to die. However, Alina doesn't listen. She crushes the Great Apostle and turns him into a purple ring, saving Blue Sword. After that, she takes a sigh of relief. However, she was a little careless with this move, but luckily she defeats the Great Apostle who is more powerful than her. Meanwhile, Blue Sword doesn't look good, and Alina gives him a really good beating. Mr. Boss, after seeing this fight, thinks Leping and Elizabeth should be satisfied with this now, right? Leping is really surprised after seeing that the masked girl is Alina. He says to Elizabeth, it turns out to be Alina, no wonder she looks familiar. He asks Elizabeth if she still remembers them, the father and daughter who came to live with them a few months ago. However, Elizabeth is not looking happy. She turns her head toward Mr. Boss, saying, who told them to reveal themselves like this? Mr. Boss, after finding out that Demon Queen Elizabeth has discovered him, starts shaking in fear. He stands up from his seat and bows down toward Elizabeth and Leping, saying, you two are here, but I didn't wish to ruin your viewing experience, so I didn't disturb you. Forgive me. But suddenly, Leping also finds out about Mr. Boss. He waves his hand toward Mr. Boss, saying, Uncle Boss, as expected, you are here too. I just said I realized Alina was the one fighting. I have a lot of questions to ask you. Mr. Boss, after hearing Leping's words, thinks if Leping is dissatisfied with their card fighting skills. Meanwhile, Sword Saint Guild President, after seeing Mr. Boss like this, thinks, who is that person Boss respects so much?